today we're going to show you how we do our beef short rib here at the restaurant. We work with Creekstone Meats. We use a prime short rib from them. We think it's a really great cut and we enjoy working with it. Brings out a beautiful beef flavor and works really well. This is why we do beef short rib from Creekstone, because of all this beautiful marbling right here. It's got great flavor, cooks up really nice, makes for a nice bite. So when we do this beef rib for you, we're going to season it up. We like to rub it down with some French's yellow mustard, kosher salt, Fiesta seasoning, garlic seasoning, black pepper. Those are the main ingredients for our short rib. Our patented drop method is really key to this recipe. We drop it from a high height. It really loosens up the muscle. We add the mustard to the beef rib, basically to help the spices adhere to the beef rib. I suppose that there is a little bit of flavor left behind because of the mustard, but really we're mostly just using it as a binder to help all the seasonings stick to the beef. You gotta work this muscle in particular, you gotta loosen it up, that way it's ready to cook, and then we'll flip over to the other side. With a slather, when you're adding that as a binder to help hold your seasoning, it's just really important that it's spread out as evenly as possible across the meat. You don't want big puddles of the binder sitting on the meat, which will keep the bark from forming. So we start with kosher salt, and then we move on to Fiesta brands, garlic salt. We use that as part of our seasoning as well. Next up, we have our 16 mesh pepper that we use for all of our barbecue. This again is a product that we get from Fiesta Spices, and we really love it. So when you're seasoning the beef rib, we feel like it's really important, just like your briskets, that all edges get seasoned. As you're working on the cutting board, some of this stuff is going to get picked up by the beef rib anyway. We try to hit all edges of the beef rib to keep it seasoned. One of the things to keep in mind is, like, as you're seasoning this, you may knock off some of the pepper and kosher salt while you're seasoning the rest of the brisket. Just touch it up after you flip it over. We're going to want to cook this meat side up in our pit. We run these at about 250, 265 during the cooking process, and typically cook them for between 7 and 8 hours. We're looking for an internal temperature around 200, but more importantly though, we're looking for it to be nice and buttery when we probe it with a thermometer or with a wooden dowel.
So we're working on the chimichurri today, so we got some nice fresh Italian parsley, broadleaf parsley, not the curly leaf stuff, it's too fancy. And then the goal is to just go through and chop it into smaller and smaller, bits, but you really don't want to send this through a food processor or through any kind of a machine, because it'll smash it instead of cutting it. So you want to have a sharp knife, and you want to just keep making passes. And what you really kind of want to look for is small enough to kind of like bread. It'll spread almost like a butter or a pesto. And you can see how it started out like 3 or 4 times this size. They're gonna keep hacking it all down. You see, you can kind of like spread it out. So we went from that to that, and now we're gonna do it again, over and over and over until our giant pile of parsley is done, and it's all nice small bits. You really want to start by processing these into the smallest chunks that you can. So I like to take them into slices first, and just as fine a slices as I can make will make the rest of the process much, much faster. Taking a little bit of extra time towards the beginning will save you a lot of time when you go to do the final mince. For us, the quality that comes out of it after hand chopping it is more than worth the extra time that we have to put into it.
So we have our beef ribs on. They've been on for about 7 hours.
Right now, these are looking really good. Nice and soft in between the bones. Of course, up here, it's gonna be nicely rendered, but I really like to check in between the bones and make sure we have nice, soft, tender meat in between the bones. These are looking great. They got a really nice bark on them. They're probably about 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes away. So after we check our ribs, make sure they're done, we're gonna take them out. They'll rest for about an hour, and we'll put them in the warmer for service in the morning.
So we have this beef chuck rib. been resting for a good bit. We're gonna open it up, take a look at what we got. Should be really nice. Like Christmas every time you open up this package. Here is our beef rib. You can see nice and bendy. It's got all that flex you're looking for in the rib before we cut it. I'll pour the fat over it. We want everybody to have a nice big fat rib, so we always remove one bone from the inside. Give it a nice tug, and she'll pull out cleanly like that. Toss it to the dog. We cut 3 nice sized chops out of these beef ribs. 1, 2, and 3. And for my money, center cut is where I like to go. That's my favorite cut on this whole one. You got some nice marbling, plenty of bark. It's a good time. For the beef rib, I chose to go with the chimichurri sauce. Ribs are so rich and smoky and decadent. I feel like the classic chimichurri with all those herbaceous flavor of parsley and garlic and red wine vinegar and olive oil is a nice counterpoint to the rich, fatty beef rib. This thing looks badass. Can't wait to get into it. Spread this chimmy out a little bit. Just go all in. Oh, fuck yeah. What I really like about this cut is it's got a really nice, like, big, beefy flavor. You know, there's plenty of fat to make it tender and juicy, as you can see. I mean, there's nothing dry about that at all. You do get a lot more beef flavor out of a chuck rib than you do a nice big fatty plate rib. That is why I like to go with these ribs. For me, they're one of the best bites in barbecue.